In Washington, politics never takes a vacation. We saw it on Wednesday as President Obama and House Speaker Boehner struggled to even set a date for the president's speech to Congress.
Yes, it's been quite a summer there, actually. And that is just one of the topics we want to get to this morning in our political roundtable. Along with us, Sam Stein, political reporter and editor for the Huffington Post. And, of course, Jan is our CBS News political correspondent. We're going to be throwing them at you. So we'll start off with you, actually. There's so much talk this morning about what happened here, this little tit for tat, and a lot of the headlines, especially online, are saying the president caved, he blinked. White House says so many debates, it's not a big deal.
Right. I mean, you rarely see consensus in Washington. I'd say probably never. But on this one, I think there is consensus in Washington that the White House totally blew it by trying to play cute and set this date on the night of the GOP debate. And then the White House says, well, you know what? I mean, there's so many debates and there's so many television stations. This doesn't matter. But that no one is buying that either, because this debate does matter. There's a huge reason it's different. Rick Perry, the Texas governor, who just entered this race and already is seen in many states as the front runner, will be on that stage for the very first time. It's a very important debate.
And is that the crux of it, just that there was more to the debate, that nobody's buying it, or is there more to it as people are looking at the divisiveness in Washington and this Republican feel?
Well, listen, I think the White House really wanted to create a contrast both with the GOP presidential candidates, but also Republicans in Congress. They like the image of Obama speaking to a joint session, talking down on lawmakers, urging them to get going on jobs. They're not going to get that optic now, because the GOP presidential debate will happen Wednesday night. Obama will now speak Thursday night. And yeah, the stakes were higher. This is a Republican debate. Rick Perry immediately is the front runner. It would have been nice for the White House to get their person right in front of that debate, but it's not going to happen.
So when you look at now, as we look at this field, as it's shaping up, there's been so much talk over the last few weeks about who the front runners are, back and forth, Romney, Perry, Michelle Bachmann still pulling in a lot of screen time. Where do we stand? Who is everybody watching in this debate?
Well, Mitt Romney's been the front runner forever. I mean, so years.
For 2 years, basically.
And so now with Perry in the race, we are seeing polls emerging that he's leapfrogging Romney just entering this race, which shows, I think, a lack of enthusiasm for Romney and this real desire for someone new and fresh. But Romney so far has been holding back a little. Perry's tapped into some of Bachmann's numbers, but Bachmann and Romney both have a lot of ammunition that they can use against Rick Perry, and that's what I think we're going to start seeing. He's got a lot of weaknesses that they can really try
Exactly,
to
and there's always a group of Republicans who are skeptical of Mitt Romney. They think he's a chameleon. They think he'd say anything to get elected. They don't like the fact that he's run basically for the past 2-3 years. And Rick Perry was bound to take some of that fire. Now, I think Mitt Romney's in a more enviable position than Michelle Bachmann, because Rick Perry is playing for that same sort of corner of the base. Mitt Romney can wait. He can hold off, and then when the time comes and it's down to him and Perry, can say, listen, the ultimate goal is to get a Republican elected. I'm more electable than Rick Perry.
Yes, and by looking at some of his positions, that's exactly, I think, what they're going to do. They're going to say that Perry is somebody that's easier to caricature, and, you know, he kind of shoots faster in the hip with some of that language, doesn't he?
And he looks like a caricature of George Bush, except it's Will Ferrell playing George Bush.
I don't think you want to put either of them, though. Neither one of them would like to be in the same sentence, though. George W. Bush. Looking out a little bit, though, as we look back to the 2008 campaign, there's all this talk about Rudy Giuliani and where he was at this point. So how much stock can we really put in these polls at this point in time?
I mean, that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, Giuliani was way ahead at this time, and, of course, his campaign quickly imploded. And now, although with Giuliani, are you saying this? We're talking about he may try to run again.
I know. Well, there's two things to keep in mind here. One is that in 2008, Fred Thompson was what Rick Perry was doing. He was the late entrant. He was going to save the field. He ultimately crashed. Giuliani had a bad strategy as well. He was going to do all Florida, and that was a bad strategy for him. So I think it's a little bit different.
All right. Well, Sam, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.